What's happening, folks? I'm Andy, ElectricGeek, and in this video we have none other than Neil Marshall's Dog Soldiers on 4K for review. This, believe it or not, was a blind buy for me. I hadn't actually seen any of Neil Marshall's films before I picked this up. So when I seen that Second Sight were releasing it on 4K, I thought, now's the time to jump on it, especially with this really sick artwork. But yeah, I wish I hadn't slept on it as long as I had. I really enjoyed Dog Soldiers, but if you want to know more about my thoughts on the movie, and more importantly, what I think of the 4K transfer with regards to its video and audio quality, then stick around and we'll be jumping into that in just a few seconds. This is actually my first video in about a month, so if you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that I've been absent, and it's because basically I've got a lot going on at home. So I have a lot of home improvement stuff happening, a lot of stuff happening in my work life, and it just wasn't possible to kind of make the videos with everything that's going on here. So I had to take a little bit of a hiatus, annoyingly just after hitting that 500 subscriber mark. But I'm back now, and I'll be back to hopefully making regular videos for you guys each week or whatever. However, if you don't care about that because you're hitting the channel up for the first time, thanks for hitting us up, welcome aboard. Please consider subscribing if you're into 4K Blu-ray, physical media in general, home cinema and a bit of gaming, then this is definitely a channel for you. So hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss my new content when it drops. So a little bit about the movie itself. The movie was released in 2001 and was the directorial debut of Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall's gone on to do a couple of films. One I picked up just recently was Doomsday, which I really enjoyed, and it's a bit of an underrated gem, albeit it borrows a lot from Mad Max and Escape from New York, but definitely worth a watch, and probably more famously, The Descent. But I'm not big into jump scare films, so I haven't managed to pluck up the courage to sit through The Descent, but now that I've watched these two, I definitely want to check it out, and I will be doing that in the near future. But yeah, Dog Soldiers, so it was released in the UK, and it did get a very limited run, I think, in America. I think it was a week in one particular theatre somewhere on the west coast. But yeah, bit of a sleeper hit and quickly developed a cult following. It stars Kevin McKidd, Sean Pertwee, and they basically play these soldiers, the most prominent soldiers within a little unit, which go on an exercise into Scotland, and quite quickly it turns into a bit of a nightmare. So they stumble across this SAS team who are out basically trying to hunt a werewolf. They believe there's only one werewolf, but it quickly turns out there's more than that. And these soldiers, you're kind of in for the ride along with them as they kind of work this out themselves and find out that they were kind of involved in the exercise as well, albeit unknowingly. They end up meeting a civilian who's played by Emma Cleesby, and she kind of fills them in on the whole kind of werewolf lore. And before you know it, they're in this cottage where they kind of have a last stand against these werewolves. So it's a pretty simple premise, but it's done in such a unique way, and it's clear that Neil Marshall has a right love for the genre. The werewolf design is fantastic, and it's all done with practical effects. There's no CGI, it's done by stuntmen in costumes. The design of the werewolves themselves is pretty unique. They're quite elegant looking, and I think to get that across physically on screen, they'd actually hired professional dancers to play them. But yeah, the makeup and the costume design is fantastic. They really are quite imposing and quite scary. You really do warm to the team quickly, which is important for the storytelling, because you want them to survive. You're in the fight with them almost, and you wish them well. You want them all to come out of it alive. Spoiler, that's not going to happen because it's a gory werewolf film, but they do their best. But yeah, being an ex-army reservist myself, it kind of took me back to my days running about in the Scottish Highlands doing training exercises, and I think that their kind of camaraderie and the lingo that they use is actually quite realistic and reminded me of my time, as I say, in the reserve. So I kind of quickly warmed to the characters, and some of the one-liners are absolutely brilliant that Sean Pertwee delivers. I can't do them justice in his accent, but if you watch the film, if you've seen it before, you'll know what I'm talking about. Kevin McKidd plays the main protagonist, my fellow countryman, who's probably most famous now for being a kind of recurring character in Grey's Anatomy, but kind of came onto the scene playing Tommy in the 90s smash hit Trainspotting. But yeah, he's really good in the role, and I can't help but feel that his performance in this film was the reason he got picked to voice the famous Soap McTavish in the Call of Duty franchise, because he sounds exactly like he does in those games. So I've never read anything about this, but I'm pretty sure someone's obviously watched Dog Soldiers over at Activision, and that's how they've ended up casting Kevin McKidd as Soap McTavish.
Drop it! Soap? Place? This belongs to you, sir. Who's Soap? Come on, we gotta get out!
As much as it did take me back to my days in the army, I must say that I don't think they're the military advisor, because It's pretty unrealistic with regards to the way they operate as soldiers, but it doesn't detract from the film. But the big thing I noticed right at the beginning was when Kevin McKidd's character's doing SAS selection, and the kind of main villain in the film has him up against a tree at one point and threatens him with a gun, which, as you can see from the still that I'm putting up now, clearly doesn't have a magazine in it. So whoever was doing the continuity there, or the military advisor, should have been shot himself for that, because it just, for me, it was laughable that he was threatening with this weapon that clearly wasn't loaded. Like I say, made me chuckle. Maybe people won't notice it, but I just thought it was quite funny and worth pointing out. But yeah, can't recommend the movie enough. It's really, really good fun. It only has like a 100-minute runtime or something. The pacing of it's great. You're on the edge of your seat all the way through. It never drags, it never slows down. You're always invested in it, and it has a satisfying ending as well. So I can definitely recommend Dog Soldiers. I think I gave it 4 out of 5, but regardless of whether you're picking up the 4K or not, try and get yourself a copy of it or stream it or something. It's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. Firstly, let's talk about the video presentation. So as I alluded to earlier, this film was shot on Super 16mm. So not your usual 35 or beyond, you know, IMAX 70mm. It was shot in Super 16. However, there's just no escaping the fact that they can only capture so much on 16mm. So you have to kind of manage your expectation with regards to this 4K presentation. This is probably the best it's going to look. As I say, this was a blind buy for me, so I haven't actually seen an old Blu-ray or even a streaming presentation or DVD, whatever, back in the day. So I can't really compare it. However, I did know about the tech specs, and I do know, being an enthusiast, that previous Blu-ray releases, and more notably the 4K release that came from Germany, was a bit of a disappointment. This from Second Sight is a brand new restoration, and it is a native 4K presentation, as I say, scanned from that 16mm print that's been recently found. But all that tech jargon aside, I was impressed with it. As I say, I had to manage my expectation going in, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. There's plenty of detail there. It is quite a noisy movie because it was filmed on film, but it doesn't detract from it. If you're a grain hater, this might put you off a little bit, but there's plenty of detail through the grain as such. And the best way I would describe it is, I would say it just looks like a very good looking Blu-ray. If you walked into a room and you didn't have an eye for HDR and whatnot, you might be fooled into thinking it was just a Blu-ray transfer if you hadn't seen previous ones. But it is a very nice presentation of the movie, and I was happy with the detail and the resolution with regards to the 4K side of things throughout. Onto the HDR though, and that's when there is a big uptick. So I watched this on my Dolby Vision capable setup, and just for your information, I use Dolby Vision Dark as opposed to Bright because I have a light controlled room, so I like to use the most accurate setting, which is Dolby Vision Dark. I thought the use of Dolby Vision had a nice balance to it. Obviously, a lot of this movie takes place at night, and when it gets really dark towards the kind of midway section of the film, there's some really nice contrast there. The blacks are nice and inky. There's no issues with regards shadow detail that I could see anyway, and you get some really nice specular highlight with regards, you know, the torches on the soldiers' weapons against the inky black night, and then towards the end, when Sean Pertwee's character is using a blue asylum stick, that is a really nice demonstration of specular highlight, and it's kind of well used there, I thought. So I think there is aggressive use of it at times when it's warranted to get that high dynamic range across for those high contrast scenes, specular highlights, asylum stick, for example. But then at the beginning of the film, when there's a lot of exterior shots, you do get those nice nuanced earthy tones, the greens, the browns, for when they're going through the Scottish Highlands. So I was very impressed with the Dolby Vision grading. So all in, I don't really have any complaints about the 4K presentation of Dog Soldiers. It's not demo worthy, it's not going to blow you away. However, given that this was from a Super 16mm negative, I think it's fantastic, and you've got to remember the film's 20 years old. So for video, I'd probably give it 4 out of 5. Moving on to the audio, and sadly, as I say, there is no object-based audio here. It is the DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 track. I don't know if this is a new track because I haven't had a previous Blu-ray release, but I would imagine it will just be the same track that's been ported across. With regards to the track itself, I thought it was absolutely fine. I thought the dialogue was clear throughout. There's plenty of gunfire in this movie, and there's enough LFE there, there's enough bass to give the gunfire a bit of a punch. There's a massive explosion towards the end of the movie as well, which sounds nice and loud, just as you'd expect. Plenty of bass for it and frequency response. So I had no complaints with regards how the DTS HD Master Audio track sounded. There is nice separation of the channels, and the atmospherics are nice also. You do feel when they get to the cottage, you're kind of circled by the werewolves the same way the characters are, because you can hear in the distance the howling of the werewolves throughout the different channels. So I thought that was pretty nice, and it helps, you know, ramp up that tension and adds to the immersion. So no issues with the audio. Would it have been nice to have had Atmos or DTS:X? Of course, I always like to see that getting added. However, the audio track that's on it's absolutely fine, and I don't think it's going to be disappointing to anyone. So for the audio, I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5. But where this release from Second Sight really comes into its own is with the special features. There's an absolute plethora of them. Second Sight have really been killing it with their releases of late, and we're lucky over in Britain to have them as our label. I'm not going to list every single one that's on here because it would take me forever. I'll put it up on the screen just now so you can have a swatch yourself, but I will mention the ones that are notable because they're brand new. So the new ones that you get are a new audio commentary by writer and associate professor of film Alison Piercy, and werewolves, crawlers, cannibals and more, a new 40-minute interview with the man himself, Neil Marshall. I've not watched all the special features yet, but I am looking forward to doing them. I have watched some of them, and I've watched the short film Combat by Neil Marshall that's included on it as well. This was a short film that he did in the late 90s, which is about squaddies coming into a pub, presumably after an exercise or a conflict somewhere, and it's their interaction with the women in the pub. But over the top of it is the sound of combat. So it's almost like a kind of arty piece, but I actually thought it was quite well done, and it's quite amusing. Definitely worth checking out. But yeah, if you're into your special features, you're not going to be disappointed with this release, Dog Soldiers. So with all that said and everything taken into consideration, you know, the video quality, the audio quality, and of course the special features, can I ultimately recommend that you pick this up? Yes, I absolutely can recommend you can pick it up, and I would give it a solid 4.5 out of 5. Now I will say I don't think it's a 4.5 out of 5 for the video quality on its own. Don't misquote me here. I'm saying it's 4.5 out of 5 as a package all in. I don't think we're ever likely to get a better presentation of Dog Soldiers in any format going forward. I think this is probably the ultimate one, the kind of definitive 4K transfer of Dog Soldiers. Is it an absolute demo disc? No, but is it very pleasing to watch, and does it have a nice use of HDR? Yes. So with regards to the video, I was impressed. I think it looks great for a film that was done on a budget. The audio, okay, it's nothing special, it's nothing new, but it's immersive enough and it complements the video presentation nicely. And then, as I've just mentioned, the special features are aplenty. So with all that considered, I get this for $24.99 and I think it's worth every penny. It's not quite a 5 out of 5 just because it's not demo material or anything like that, but I think as a release, it's fantastic and it's worth picking up. I should quickly mention at this point, this isn't the only version of Dog Soldiers you can get on 4K. Second Sight did release a box set, which I believe was around about the $39.99 price point. As I mentioned earlier, it was a blind buy for me, so I wasn't going to jump in at that price point just in case I didn't like it. But I know there's plenty of YouTubers out there that have covered it. But the one I'm going to recommend to you is Keith over at Euphoria Pictures. He's got a fantastic channel, really passionate about physical media, and he's got one of the best collections I've ever seen. And I know he's done a very good video on this release, kind of similar to what I have, but he covers the box set, and he also talks about the German 4K in comparison to this one. So if you're someone that's sitting there with an imported German 4K and you want to know whether it's worth your while, then Keith's video is the one to watch. So I'll leave a link in the description for Keith's video. So that's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed this review of Dog Soldiers in 4K. If you've liked it, you found it useful, then please consider hitting that like button. It's free to do that, and if you haven't subscribed already, then please hit that subscribe button also and help me get to my next milestone of 1,000 subscribers. My next 4K review is going to be that of 88's first foray into 4K Blu-ray, and that is the 1997 movie Drive, not to be confused with the Nicholas Winding Refn Drive, of course. I'm talking about the 90s one. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing that. I've seen it already and I can't wait to tell you about it and give you my thoughts. So if you haven't subscribed already, as I say, hit that subscription button so you don't miss that one when it drops. Thanks for watching. I've been Andy Electric Geek, and I'll catch you in the next video.
I think it's all over. It is now.